Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Etheria restart video, and this is all about you learning from my mistakes and what can help you avoid just bricking your account at the beginning, because the first week of the game is by far the most important. And through my experience in the beta, there's a lot of things that I did wrong, either because I just didn't know and I made the mistakes, or I was intentionally kind of experimenting around doing things that weren't necessarily optimal just to see what happened. So these are some tips to help you get off to a good start and not brick your account. Also linked in the description below to a full launch tier list and recommendations on what units you should pull for your selector as well. So you should watch that after this video. But anyway, let's get into it. So the first big mistake that I made was that I used all my energy to refresh items before the 2x events. Now, obviously, I had no idea there were going to be 2x events, and we don't know exactly when they are going to happen in the official launch, but they are for sure going to happen at some point, probably sooner rather than later. And there's going to be days where you can get 2x experience for leveling up your characters, 2x experience for leveling up your gear, 2x shell drops. These are going to be some extremely valuable events, and some of these events will even drop crystals. So keep that in mind. A good thing that you want to do right away is max refresh, at least for the first week. You want to max refresh your energy to push as much content as you can, but you don't want to use the actual energy refresh items, okay? Use the crystals. And I know especially free-to-play players might be scared of this because they'll be like, I could pull for units for this, but trust me, it's a way better use to refresh your energy. Use your pulls, you'll have enough at the beginning anyway, and just make sure you refresh. It doesn't cost that much, but save your energy items because it's going to give you a lot more energy than just the refreshes from crystals for those 2x events. Okay, so that is the first thing. The second thing is I invested too much in low tier gear. And that's just the reality of it. Now, you're going to start out at green, and then you can get blue gear. And I kind of avoided leveling those, but then I leveled a lot of purple gear, way more than I should have. And then I maxed out yellow gear, and I shouldn't have done that either. So I would recommend avoiding leveling blue and green entirely. Only level purple gear minimally, like as much as you need to push content, and then you can take maybe your yellow gear to tier 9 in some cases for like your key units, and then you really don't want to be pushing level 12 or even 15 until you get to that pink or red gear, which is the highest tier of gear. So just don't invest too much. It'll seem like you have a ton of leveling material, but trust me, when you get to the high levels, it's going to take a lot of material to level that gear, and you're going to need it for things. The second thing, or the third thing rather, and this is related to gear, I didn't sell gear, which is ridiculous. And now I had enough material in the beta that I didn't really need to, but for launch, you want to sell all that real low tier gear that you're not using, and you'll get more leveling materials back to focus on the gear that you actually want. Now, it's not a great exchange rate, but still, sell the gear that you're not going to use, get rid of that like blue and green gear, probably most of your purple gear, etc., whatever you're not using, and get as much value out of it as you can. All right, number 4, I farmed too much low tier gear. This is again related to gear. This is a very gear centric game as far as getting powerful and like progressing in your power level in the account. And I just farmed too much low level of it. You want to make sure you're getting up to things like the at least Nightmare and more like Hell, and I think what is it after that? But the really high tier gear, I would say Hell is where you want to be farming a lot. And I think there's also Inferno. I should have looked up the gear, the level rankings before I started doing this to see what the names were called. But when you're farming things like Doki Doki, Aurora, whatever it is, you don't want to farm too much of that low level gear because again, you're just not going to spend time leveling it up. And so spend your time leveling other things or farming other things rather. So then when you get to the higher levels, then you can push farming the gear because there's really no point in trying to farm a bunch of like low tier gear. It's just not going to make that big of a difference. Save it until you can get that like yellow, pink, and red gear and then farm that a ton. All right. After that, moving on a little bit from gear, I should have done more experience farming. So you want to pretty much like, farm a lot of things pretty equally. But when in doubt, when you have extra stuff, instead of doing things like farming a bunch of low tier gear, you want to farm experience because you can level your units, okay? And leveling your units if is kind of the default best way to increase your power level. Now, when you get to the higher tiers, your shells in particular will make a huge difference, but that's not until you get to, again, where you can farm those high tier shells that make a big difference. And in the meantime, you want to be getting the level up on your units, and increasing their stars to at least like 5 stars, and then some of those like key units that you're really focusing on to 6 stars. So farm experience when in doubt. Okay. After that, let's talk about the fact that I didn't do enough of the charter missions for different modes. Now, I just said kind of like when in doubt, farm experience, but don't focus too much on any particular mode. There are the hyperlinker charter missions. Hyperlinker charter, that's missions for different modes, okay? They're going to have progression levels that you should be trying to hit these marks each day as you go by for all these different modes. Don't focus too much on one and get stuck in it. I totally did this. I was way behind in a couple different modes and I had to go back and do it. And it's just going to hamper your progression, okay? So you're going to level up faster if you're kind of doing all of these things equally. Trust the developers. They designed this for a reason to kind of like move you in the right direction. Complete those hyperlinker charter missions evenly and make sure you're progressing through all of it so you don't get stuck. And then it's just going to take even longer to level up and progress. And I definitely didn't pay enough attention to this. All right, moving on, I pulled on the rate up banners, and I don't think you should do this. And this is like a major like mentality shift for most gacha gamers, because generally you want to target only the rate up banners and save your resources for the next rate up banner and target those units. In Etheria, you don't want to do that, at least at launch. That is because you will have your best shot at increasing your collection of light and dark units, which are those lower rarity, more powerful units, by pulling on the general banner first, okay? So the standard banner is where you have your best shot. You can do the most pulls to try and get those light and dark characters. And there is a light and dark specific banner, but your currency to pull on that is going to be extremely limited, so you're just not going to get that many pulls on it. And then the rate up banners are only going to have that rate up unit. Now, there are some good rate up banners right away. The first one is going to be Messiah and also Freya, and those are good units, but you can still get them on the standard banner, and there are even better units that you can get on the standard banner. So just keep pulling on that standard banner, and that's going to be the best use of your resources. Don't get trapped by thinking that like, oh, I really want Freya. At least wait until towards the end of her banner period and then pull on her if you haven't gotten her within the standard banner before that. All right, still staying on the topic of summons, I used my selector summon too soon. Now, again, this was kind of part of in the beta. I just, was kind of like experimenting with things, and I, was wanting to like get a new unit to try as soon as possible. But the selector summon, I believe it's up to 40 summons will then guarantee you the exact SSR that you want of any RGB unit. And you want to use this to get what you are missing, not what you want to start the game with right away. Okay, so wait on this. I know it's going to be tough. Everyone wants to pull on this immediately and get the OP unit or their favorite unit, but I promise you, you might regret it later on, because what if you just happen to randomly pull that unit in the standard banner and then you could have picked another unit? So, wait. Say I'm targeting Rosa and then I, don't get her on the standard banner, but I get other strong units like Doki Doki and Hellkid and Freya, but I'm missing Rosa. Then I can make sure that after I've pulled like 100 times or whatever on that standard banner, then I can go grab Rosa from the rate up banner or whoever I happen to be missing in that case. That's a really, really key point. And again, I think the mentality for banners is just different in Etheria. And you want to build up your collection as wide as possible to have a variety of teams, particularly for PvP, if you're interested in that. And then if you kind of pick up all these units on the standard banner, then when we shift to new rate up banners, when new units are released, you can focus on just that rate up banner and you'll have like all the units in the game, because you can only have to focus on getting one at a time at that point. All right, the last mistake that I made is that I didn't level SR skills enough. And again, this is something that's different from a lot of gacha games. SR units are really valuable, okay? This is not like, I guess if you like them, you can use them, or like for the first day, they're going to help you progress through early story. Like SR units are legit good, and the big reason to level them up, besides the fact that they're just good, okay? Like, let that be said. SR units are good in this game, particularly Gray, Dina, Chiaki as a healer, and a couple of other ones. Again, link to my tier list and recommended units in the description below. You can see what else I recommended building there. But these are going to be key units to help you progress, and they will do things that some SSR units can't even do. And the other major reason to level up your SR units is that you just won't have enough perfect lattices to level up the skills on SSR units, but you'll have plenty to level up SR units. So you can build a much stronger team in the first couple of weeks by building some of those SR units, by using their resources that you can't use on SSR units anyway, by pushing up their skills when you only have a couple skills leveled up on like 2 or 3 SSR units. So just keep that in mind. I did not level up SR units. I had a bunch of resources for leveling their skills just kind of sitting there, and I definitely plan to leverage that in the final launch. All right, thanks for watching. Hopefully these tips were helpful. I will be streaming immediately at launch, which will be 2 a.m. my time. Come hang out. I'll be streaming on both YouTube and Twitch. I'm starting a union immediately. We have, I want to say 2 spots open or maybe 3 spots open. So if you want to join a strong competitive union, hit me up. Link to my Discord in the description below as well. I'll see you guys on stream later tonight. Good luck, and I hope your polls go well.